tournament for weeks now, and it's the opening round games today. I know you'll be up at Maple Shade covering 2 games up there involving 2 Cape Atlantic League teams. It's Mainland versus Riverside at 10:30, then Ocean City versus Kingsway at 1 o'clock. So let's talk about these matchups. We'll start with the Mainland one, and they get to see a team in Riverside, which I'm going off the top of my head here. I'm assuming they haven't seen in a while, but this is what this tournament does. It pits teams against one another that wouldn't play each other normally and usually makes for some pretty good matchups.
Yeah, Riverside is a traditionally good Group 1 baseball team, Group 1, Group 2 baseball team out of Burlington County, a good baseball town. So it'll be an interesting matchup for Mainland Regional. And you're right, they haven't played in a while. If ever, when you think about it, Mainland hasn't been in the Diamond Classic since 2008, so they haven't. And, of course, Riverside being a Group 1 and Group 2 school, they wouldn't see Mainland, who has played in Group 3 and Group 4 over the years. So this is what the Diamond Classic is about, bringing together teams from different parts of South Jersey and different enrollment groups also.
Mainland coming off a 1-run win over Atlantic City yesterday. Then in the second game at Maple Shade today, 1 o'clock, Ocean City battles Kingsway. Again, 2 teams not really familiar with one another, but boy, Ocean City looking really good right now, shutting down St. Augustine earlier this week. I think it was a 10-0 mercy rule situation in 6 innings, and Ocean City may be as hot as any team right now in South Jersey, Mike.
Yeah, they're playing very well, and they've kind of been building to this the past couple of years. They've had 2 good seasons. In the Cape Atlantic League National Conference, the past 2 seasons. Of course, a couple of years ago, they went to the state final, won a South Jersey title. So they've kind of been building the last 4 or 5 years towards this type of season now. I mean, Sean Mooney, their standout pitcher is now a junior. He had a lot of promise as a freshman, a good year last year as a sophomore. So Ocean City kind of building towards this, and they're making their first Diamond Classic appearance since 2000. I think they've got a tough opponent in Kingsway, a Group 4 school out of the Tri-County Conference in the midst of a very good season. That could be a tough game for the Red Raiders. Interesting game.
So those are the 2 games at Maple Shade. We'll run down the rest of the schedule here. 2 games at Deptford, 10:30. It's Williamstown versus Paulsboro. Then 1 o'clock, St. Augustine versus Eastern. So let's stop there and talk about that one. The Hermits, the defending champs, they almost didn't get in, Mike. They do get in as an at-large team, and they go up against an Eastern team, which is a very powerful club, but maybe Eastern, like St. Augustine, stumbling a little bit in the last week or 2.
You said, in high school baseball, it's very, very tough to not hit a slump, and especially this time of year when the rainouts seem to pile up from earlier in the season, or the makeup games seem to pile up, and teams are playing 4 or 5 games in a week. A lot of teams just don't have the pitching depth to go 5-0 during a week like that. So St. Augustine, as you mentioned, on the bubble, they get the nod, they get into the tournament. They stumbled a little bit against Ocean City, losing that game 10-0 earlier this week, but they rebounded with some wins. It'll be interesting to see what they do against an Eastern team that started off, I believe, 12-0 or 13-0, and again has kind of lost 2 or 3 in a row. But it's still a quality baseball team because, like I said, you're not going to see a high school, or very rarely are you going to see a high school baseball team, go 23-2 or 24-0 or 25-0. There's just too many games being played at this time of year, too many pitching matchups that can go one way or the other. So an Eastern team that is kind of, like you said, stumbled a little bit, and a St. Augustine team that maybe hasn't accomplished all that they've hoped for this season, but that can turn around with a run here in the Diamond Classic.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, our guest right now in the South Jersey Sports Report. We're running through the first-round schedule of today's Diamond Classic. Now, Hamilton, a new venue this year, and Hamilton featuring 2 games this morning. 10:30, it'll be Northern Burlington versus Buena. Then at 1 o'clock, Rancocas Valley versus Haddonfield. So let's back up. Buena gets Northern Burlington, and this is a Buena team, Mike, not necessarily challenged by the toughest schedule during the regular season games, of course, playing over on the national side, and we've seen some pretty one-sided results from Buena. But, boy, they get a team today in Northern Burlington that really has to be considered maybe one of the top 1, 2, 3 teams in all of South Jersey.
Well, and it's a team that beat Buena, I believe, about a week and a half ago, 17-0 up at Northern Burlington. So Buena gets a chance to avenge that defeat. And, Buena will be pitching its ace pitcher, Denny Brady, today, from what I understand. He did not pitch the first game against Northern Burlington. So I would expect the Buena team with Brady on the mound to be motivated and to kind of show what they can do. I think they'd be the first ones to say they were kind of disappointed in the final score of losing to Northern Burlington, 17-0 about 10 days ago.
And then rounding out the first-round games of the Diamond Classic at Washington Township, 10:30 Lenape versus Gloucester Catholic, and then 1 o'clock Cherry Hill West versus Bishop Eustace. We're going to catch up with Kevin Minnick from the Courier-Post in a few minutes. We'll talk more about those games with him, Mike, but I wanted to pick your brain, about some high school track and field. We know it was the county championships this past week, so you had the Cumberland County Championships, Cape May County Championships, Atlantic County Championships, and I know that for the Atlantic County side of things, Egg Harbor Township, boy, really impressive in both the boys and the girls side. And, what were your takeaways in terms of the team wins from the Silver Eagles at those county championships?
Well, as you said, it was a big day for EHT and kind of a day of streaks, one ending and one continuing. The EHT girls won their 5th straight Atlantic County Championship. Tremendous outing from Ayana Garrett. Sprinter sweeps the 100, 200 dashes. Julianne Cadian in distance runner wins the 800 and 1600 runs and really propels EHT to a big victory. On the boys' side, just a great meet between Oakcrest and Egg Harbor Township, just a great competition. I mean, if that was a basketball game or a football game, the stands would have been filled. They're two of the best teams in South Jersey. The EHT boys edge Oakcrest. Oakcrest deserves a lot of credit, though a lot of people don't know that Oakcrest has won 45 straight dual meets. They beat EHT in a dual meet earlier this season. That's 5 years of undefeated dual meets. They had won 5 straight county championships, but EHT boys come up with a great effort and just kind of nip them in the county championship meet.
So much like baseball, softball, a number of other sports, you sort of blink and the track and field season is sort of at the end almost. I mean, we're approaching South Jersey championships, state championships after that. Who are some guys and gals that you saw during that county meet, Mike, that could really make some noise, come South Jersey and come states?
Well, I think if you look at the full 3-county area, I think there's a couple of people you can highlight. I think out of Atlantic County, I like the sprinter for EHT, Alvin Abram. Came back, won the 200, 400 meter dashes. I think Rocco Ordilli, third of the meter champions out of St. Joe as a sophomore, I believe. Injured his knee in the football season. We didn't think we'd see him back on the track for the spring. However, he was back running at the Atlantic County meet, won the 100 meter dash. We'll have a story in the press coming up on him in the next couple of days about that comeback. Really just a remarkable story. You look at Cape May County, you've got Devin Grisbaum, the Ocean City's distance runner, with a chance to really do something historic. She won a meet of champions cross-country title. She won a meet of champions in the 3,200 run during the indoor season. Now she's going to shoot for a meet of champion season in the outdoor season. That would be a historic achievement that nobody from the Cape Atlantic League has ever achieved. Quinn Bethel, the high jumper from Lower Cape May, impressed at the Lower Cape May meet. And then you move out to Cumberland County, you've got Rachel Armstead, kind of a hurdler, sprinter, jumper from Millville, just a tremendous all-around athlete. Help the Thunderbolts win that championship out there. So, like you said, we've got the Cape Atlantic League Championships coming up this Thursday, and then next weekend it's the South Jersey Championships, followed by the following weekend the State Championships, and then the Meet of Champions. So, this is the prime time season for track and field. You've got about 3.5 weeks left, and this is where, the biggest part of the season, obviously.
Checking in right now with Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, talking some Diamond Classic baseball, some high school track and field, and also a little business with the NJSIAA this week, Mike. I know it was a marathon meeting, and I know you were there, and we've talked a little bit about some of the things on the table with you a few weeks ago, but bring us up to speed as to what's going on with some possible rule changes and sort of what the process is right now with some things football, wrestling related with the NJSIAA.
Yeah, Wednesday, a lot of proposals out there that could really change the face of high school sports in New Jersey, and they took a big step forward Wednesday. The NJSIAA Executive Committee endorsed a couple proposals. The general membership will now vote on these proposals at a December meeting. The general membership meaning just all the high schools in New Jersey that belong to the NJSIAA. And if they approve these proposals, they will take effect for 2016 and 17, and the proposals are kind of radical. One would be, separating non-public and public schools for football, putting them in different leagues for the regular season. A second would be creating 4 new districts and 1 region strictly for non-public schools. So in the individual wrestling tournament, you would have public school kids just wrestling public school kids and non-public kids wrestling non-public kids until they got to Atlantic City. They would be separate until they got to Atlantic City. One state champion would still be crowned, but the non-publics would again be put in their own category for districts and regions. And the third change would be the transfer rule, which, if you change from a open enrollment, if you transfer to or from an open enrollment school, regardless of a change of address, an open enrollment being a non-public or a public school choice school, you would have to sit 30 days and be banned from the state tournament. So those are 3 kind of huge changes. And, they still have some ways to go, but they took a big step forward this past Wednesday.
Mike, was it also discussed football-wise, Cape Atlantic League football-wise, the possibility once again for the Cal to try and join forces with the West Jersey Football League? Does that potential move and the potential rule change with South Jersey State football as a whole sort of go hand in hand?
Yeah, I think things are kind of in flux when you look at that. The CAL applied, I think in February or March, we first reported in the press that they had applied again to the West Jersey Football League. Unlike 2 years ago when the West Jersey Football League kind of gave the Cape Atlantic League the thumbs down, from what I understand, the West Jersey Football League is more receptive to the Cape Atlantic League this time around. The West Jersey Football League is looking at changing its constitution. Right now, the West Jersey Football League couldn't do what the Cape does, and that is have St. Joe, basically a Group 1 school, play Group 5 teams in the American Conference. The West Jersey Football League's constitution says you can't play up that much in group size. The West Jersey Football League is looking to change their constitution, make some changes in their league. If they make those changes, they could, the Cape could find themselves a member of the West Jersey Football League. I think everything's tied together right now. Everything's in a state of flux. If the state was to approve putting publics and non-publics in separate leagues, I think the Cape Atlantic League would be in the West Jersey Football League in about 30 seconds. I think if the parochial schools stay in the Cape Atlantic League, it might be a more complicated process, but there's a chance that, for 2016 football season, that the Cape will be a part of the West Jersey Football League.
So certainly a lot up in the air right now. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City covering a pair of baseball games from the Press later on today. Mainland versus Riverside, 10:30 start, and then Ocean City versus Kingsway at 1 o'clock. Those games part of the Diamond Classic up in Maple Shade. So check out his coverage of those games later on tonight and then tomorrow. Mike McGarry, Press of Atlantic City. Always appreciate the time. Have fun at those games today, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right. You got it. Again, Mike McGarry. Great insight there.